If you've ever wondered how to lead by example while also balancing fear, rejection, and opposition, then stay tuned because I believe you're in for a treat. Welcome back, Jaleesa Dallas here. And here we cultivate courage. We break barriers to our success, bolster our belief for greater confidence, and we build brave, bold behaviors to optimize our lives, thereby creating belonging internally and externally in community. Welcome to those who are new to me. Again, I am glad that you are here. And today we are continuing our series on From Self-Leader to People Leader. I am telling you over 10 plus ways that I have navigated this journey, going from being an individual contributor to one that leads teams and people in various aspects, from on my job to volunteering and community work. And so I'm glad that you're here. If you could do me a favor, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share this with someone you know. I would truly, truly appreciate it. So let's go ahead and jump into this conversation because we're talking about the brave balance. Now, in all transparency, balance is not my favorite word because just like they say that we can't multitask and that's a myth, I believe balance is kind of a myth too. I very much believe in intentionality, and I'm going to tell you why I prefer intentionality in just a moment, but we're talking about the brave balance. And with that, mastering self-management and leading by example. So I mentioned fear, rejection, opposition. We're going to get to that in just a second, but I want to talk about self-management first, because self-management is how we regulate our emotions, our behaviors, and our contributions to the world to some extent under pressure. It is our way in which we cope, or coping mechanisms rather, when we're dealing with stressful situations. On the positive side, it could look like meditation, journaling, exercise, being outdoors. On the negative side, it could look like addictive behaviors and or overworking, things that actually lead us to self-sabotaging behaviors, vice those that help us to improve our ability to handle stress. I want to connect this also to emotional intelligence because if you're familiar or not, emotional intelligence has 5 components, which are self-awareness, self-management, which we're talking about now, motivation, empathy, and relationship management. And so self-management falls behind self-awareness, and that self-awareness is the foundation of our beliefs, our values, our strengths and weaknesses, the ways in which we learn, identifying our triggers. And self-management follows that in how we handle those things that help us to learn, and when we identify those triggers, whether or not we respond or react. And when you think about that, those two are very different. A response is very thoughtful and it's very inquisitive, whereas a reaction is very impulsive, highly emotional, and does not really have much reason behind it. Self-awareness and self-management encompasses our intention. Motivation leads us to create impact, which encompasses our empathy and relationship management. So self-management in a nutshell is about self-control. It's our ability, again, to regulate our emotions, our behaviors under pressure. Now, when we're dealing with fear, rejection, and opposition, it is unavoidable when it comes to leadership. Fear is, when I talk about breaking barriers to our success, it's confronting those things that block our own progression. Fear is a part of leadership. Without it, it doesn't help us to challenge and confront the things that are holding us back. I have dealt with fear personally all my life, which I'm sure most of us have. Fear is a normal part of leadership. I have experienced fear in ways that, man, have overwhelmed me. We have the fear of failure, the fear of not being enough, the fear of just doing the wrong things as a leader because we have people following us and looking to us for guidance and support. So that is inevitable. I have personally dealt with the fear of leadership and that being the example carries a lot of weight. Now, I've talked about this throughout this series, the weightiness of leadership. And so I just didn't want that. I could barely get through my own tasks and responsibilities, let alone having to be responsible for others and ensuring that they fulfilled their assignments as well. I didn't want that weight. I didn't want what I perceived as a burden. But in actuality, it's an opportunity for us to lead by example, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But that fear kept me from stepping into positions, opportunities, and even career advancement because I didn't want that weight. Rejection is also another area that is common in leadership. And so I'm going to give you a few items that I've found because every leader faces it, but just some examples. Ideas being shut down. I am an ideator and I like to incubate those ideas and I like to share them. And if nothing happens with them, I feel really bad. But I have learned that it's a part of that discovery phase. It's a part of contributing to a greater body, and putting those ideas out there actually help to get other people thinking innovatively as well. So though I may perceive it as rejection because there's maybe no response that comes as a result of sharing it with a group of people, it doesn't necessarily mean that people don't receive it and may take it and potentially develop different aspects of it. When we're talking about rejection, missed opportunities. Also, when you're a leader thinking about rejection, people leaving your organization for which you are leading or for which you may be managing, that can stem some areas of rejection. But again, it's normal, and we all as leaders face these things. And then we have opposition. There is healthy opposition where there is constructive feedback going back and forth. And this is when we get to that relationship management of emotional intelligence as a whole, that fifth component, where we're talking about communication, constructive feedback, and how to have healthy confrontation. But then you have opposition that is not healthy and leads to toxicity. This is where we don't create psychological safety to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations. Those things, my recommendation is seeking HR for support and help, but also really thinking about your why in those instances and navigating those difficult situations. My suggestion is creating a system in some way to recognize the fear that we have, rejection that may come about, and opposition, and looking at taking moments of reflection, getting feedback, and kind of processing those things, not internalizing them, because the moment we internalize them, then we start to devalue our own contributions as a leader. Now, as we talk about leading by example, there is this myth that would led us to believe that we have to be so far ahead of the people whom which we lead. But I like to live by the principle of 5 steps ahead. It's far enough so that we're still relevant, but also close enough to where we can still provide guidance and support. I believe in relevance and respect. Again, that distance is just a good amount to be able to contribute effectively, but also be seen as someone that creates value or has value to contribute to the conversation or to the organization. I also believe that that 5 steps ahead just builds a level of trust. It builds a level of respect and relevance. So I am someone who likes to mentor others. I have a mentor on my job, and I also mentor youth and young adults in the community. And so when I'm able to share my struggles and my challenges, also my wins and successes, I'm able to relate to the folks for which I am mentoring, but also giving them some insight as to perfection is not a reality, and to navigate the journey of leadership or of growth with patience, with grace, and with gratitude. Just a few things to lean into as takeaways as we sum up this conversation about brave balance and the intentionality of that to master self-management as well as to lead by example. Self-management, you want to do that through reflection, setting boundaries, and operating through emotional regulation. We want to embrace fear and rejection as part of the process, not proof of failure. Finally, leading by example means doing so with humility. Your authenticity is what will create credibility. Well, I hope that this was helpful to you. If you would do me a favor, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share this with someone you know. I would truly appreciate it. And until next time, let your soul work be your best work to a better you. And don't forget, we are continuing this series. I believe we have 3 more videos that we're going to push out as relates to the 10 plus lessons that I've learned in my transition and in my partnering my self-leadership into being a people leader. So stay tuned for more. Have a great one.